Streaming is a scam. Piracy is back. So we're gonna check out and see what's up with piracy because see, like I was kind of big, like I like got down with Pirate Bay, bro. Like I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I've downloaded some stuff, you know what I'm saying? So like we're gonna check it out because supposedly piracy is supposed to be back because apparently streaming service and how chaotic it's got and inflation, bro. And they're like separating, like you can only watch certain things on this streaming platform and certain things on this streaming platform, and it's like, bro, I just want to be able to watch anything I choose to watch when I choose to watch it on like one thing, you know what I mean? And it's like division.
For decades, the internet has enabled all the content you could possibly dream of to be accessible at a fingertip. Streaming is now everywhere. Any movie or TV show you want to watch is there. And yet, just as we're saturated with streaming content everywhere, piracy is now back and becoming normal again. Because people are starting to realize that modern streaming is a scam, and millions of people are just simply tuning out. And despite the ads and the price hikes, the studios still...
To be honest, the only service I use is Netflix right now, and then I get Peacock for free because of my internet provider. So, and I don't even really use that Peacock that much. Like, there's like only one show I really want to watch on that whole service.
Losing billions because we are going into a new golden age of piracy. But this wave of piracy is simply a wider symptom that the internet as a whole is dying. The same greedy decisions that are killing streaming are also undermining the entire internet as a whole, and possibly the rest of the economy. And now as we see governments restricting 18+ content,
and that we covered yesterday, go check out my YouTube video, it just dropped,
requiring users to do facial scans and upload their physical IDs to gatekeep the internet, trying to literally block VPNs as we speak, it's clear we're in for a new age of piracy. But how did this all start and where did this come from? Let's start with streaming. People used to think it was the future, but the state of it today makes you nostalgic for the past. When you compare the modern state of streaming to what we used to have, it's night and day. Back when Netflix was the only show in town, it was insanely cheap compared to cable. For just $8 a month, you had access to Netflix's entire catalog. While Netflix didn't make their own shows, you still got far more value for money. These were the days before every Hollywood studio had segregated its backlog for its own platform. Pretty much anything you could imagine was on Netflix, available instantly. Compare that to today and you start to get a sense of just how messed up the streaming landscape has become. So let's see how it all stacks up in reality today. For the mainstream platforms, you've got Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Max, and Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, and finally Peacock. We're already looking at over $100 a month, or $1,236 a year. And this is all for no...
That's wild, bro. You're actually, if you want to be able to keep up with everything, you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, back in the day, bro, like, you could just keep up on everything with one thing. You didn't need all of these. You see what I'm saying? You just needed one thing, and you could find out everything you needed from all the different platforms. You see what I'm saying? Or as it were, like, ABC, NBC, you know what I'm saying? Fox, blah, 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 like, all that, right? Disney, HBO, Cinemax. And so now you're paying for this. That's why I only pay for Netflix. It's like I have something to like so I can watch something that isn't information because I logistically my whole life is looking at information about what's going on in the world. So yes, like every little once to like to go to sleep basically. I watch like something on Netflix because it's something I don't even care about. Like it's only important in me trying to figure out the symbolism. And usually I watch stuff I've already watched before. So I don't need to look at it for symbolism. It's just there for background noise, you know?
No improvement in service. All that gets you is the same level of ad-free access you would have had for $8 just a decade ago. Sure, you'd probably get more content paying $100 a month today than you would have gotten 10 years ago. But you just can't deny how insanely expensive it's getting for normal people. As we all thought we were escaping cable prices, but now we're paying even more. But we're hardly done here. If you're into documentaries, you might want Curiosity Stream, which is another $5 a month. If you like anime, then Crunchyroll is another $8 a month minimum. And oftentimes this is...
And I remember, bro, like 5 years ago, Crunchyroll was free, bro. You see what I mean? Like, yeah, like 4 years ago, Crunchyroll was free. So was Hulu. Hulu started out free.
Still with the ad-supported subscription tier. Often it's not even cheaper, it's just the old price they used to charge before they hiked it up. Some platforms like Amazon just force the adverts into their existing service, while charging their customers $3 extra a month to remove them. Yet the entire reason to
Wow,
often
bro.
have these services is to not deal with constant ads anymore, and going back is seemingly a
Right.
non-negotiable. It's why an estimated 25% of Prime Video's young adult users cancelled their subscription entirely when it was introduced. Plus, if you have any other subscriptions, like a Spotify subscription, ChatGPT subscription, even a subscription for your car, you'll end up just forking out hundreds of dollars a month very easily. And so when the obvious alternative to much of this stuff is always going to be free, you can see why so many people have been willing just to say no to the nonsense, as millions of people have now been recently cancelling their subscriptions, and if things continue to get worse, this process will only accelerate. But before we get into the pirate ships threatening to sink the entire industry, we need to understand how we even got here in the first place. You see, the Hollywood of today is completely different to what it used to be.
I mean, there's still pedophiles.
Of a small set of studio executives and CEOs controlling the whole industry and taking the profits.
While most are still true,
they aren't working for themselves anymore. The past 2 decades have seen a process called financialization decimate Hollywood, as described in the book Derivative Media: How Wall Street Devours Culture. You see, the studios don't even own themselves anymore. They've often sold out to private equity. And here's how it works. Say you've got a struggling movie studio like MGM in 2004. They had been one of the biggest studios in Hollywood, but despite their rich catalogue of IPs and characters like James Bond and Spider-Man, the 90s and 2000s had not been kind to them. Now, saddled with debt from trying to stay relevant, the studio was looking for a way out. And
I didn't know they did RoboCop. I forgot about that.
Comes along. They see what's called a distressed asset, and they have just the right tool to make profit from it: a leverage buyout. Using borrowed money, billions of it in this case, a few equity firms could take over a company like
all money is borrowed money,
like MGM, and pay off the previous debts with even more borrowed cash. Often a larger competitor will then join the buyout so that the private equity firms can use them as a platform to extract even more profit. In MGM's case, the equity firms were joined by some of the other studios like Sony, eager to get their hands on MGM's licenses. MGM, meanwhile, took on a further $3.7 billion in debt to try and make this deal, nearly twice as much as the equity firms paid off when they bought it. Now, the standard play is often to strip the assets and just move on. This is how private equity makes money from distressed assets.
Right.
In MGM's case, Sony took the valuable characters, the catalogue of movies, and any other content which was potentially profitable. And all the other parts of MGM, like all the staff, were dead weights. As costs go down, profits remain the same for a little while the stock price goes up and the equity firm can make their money back. By the time the damage from the layoffs and the liquidation becomes clear, the firms that bought it will have probably sold it already, or they'll have made enough of stock dividends that they just don't care anymore. While the MGM buyouts marked the beginning of a gold rush for private equity, it really didn't go that well on paper. A few years later, MGM was still heavily in debt with barely anything left to sell to pay it off. Sony hadn't made as much on Spider-Man and James Bond as they thought, but the end result of all of
Yeah, I wasn't in that Spider-Man. I was in the Amazing Spider-Man, the one with the doctor that turned into the lizard. Yeah, I was in TV. You can go check me out. I was in background. Like, you can't find me, actually. I was in background. There was nothing accredited. Like, I did it as a job for survival. It did not pay a lot. Well, I mean, it paid a lot better than a lot of jobs, but like, it still was minimum wage. Let's just say that. But I got to see a lot of cool stuff that I wouldn't have got to see otherwise, like be in a Spider-Man movie.
This was that Hollywood.
I had to act like I was turning into one of the lizards, bro, because like the lizard, he like running in one part of the movie, he's running down the street and shit, and he's like throwing these fucking bombs and shit, and the bombs like release gas, and the gas turns the humans into the lizard. So like, yeah, I had to be like one of those people that like acted like I got turned into a lizard. It was cool. And then the Spidey cam is fucking crazy, bro. Like watching the Spidey cam, like do the Spidey cam stuff is like pretty wild. I was on a lot of shows like Dexter, bro. I was in the movie Lincoln Lawyer in the fucking stripper scene, and like you see me about that much, like a tiny bit in 2 spots. And that's it. But I'm not worried about it. I wasn't there to try to be on camera. You know what I'm saying?
Became even more concentrated. MGM ceased to exist as it got traded from one equity firm to another, each one trying to extract the last bit of value from its corpse. Their characters and IP got swallowed up into Sony, backed by private equity. Hollywood then constricted even more and sold out to private equity once again. And we've seen how this process eventually unfolded with MGM, as the entire company got stripped and thrown away like a total car.
Dang, you're right. It probably doesn't exist no more. That's wild.
Over and over again. In the same year, JP Morgan and some other firms bought out.
Shows how much I've been out of the system, dude. I didn't even know I didn't even know they didn't exist no more, bro. That's wild, bro. I grew up watching those movies. and seeing that damn lion on the screen. I wonder how long they had not existed for.
AMC. Cinemark was sold out to Madison Dearborn Partners, and in 2006, a group of investors led by the world's largest asset manager Blackstone bought out the Nielsen Company, which is a massive Hollywood audience data firm. Hulu then went a year later, as well as Univision not long afterwards. DreamWorks was then bought up in 2008 by private equity, Miramax in 2010, and in 2012, one of Hollywood's largest talent agencies, WME, was brought out by the private equity firm Silver Lake. A year later, they then struck again, buying out another agency called IMG, and they were two of the four big ones. Some of IMG's clients included Taylor Swift and Justin Timberlake. And so in the space of 1 year, one private equity firm took control of a huge part of the industry. So why has no one ever heard about any of this? You think people would be interested in learning?
No one ever heard of this because this is the type of shit they don't like you to know about. Because if you did know about it, you might think differently.
How just a few firms
actually they know you would think differently.
Bought one of the biggest industries in the world. The whole of Hollywood has been bought out, and yet this was buried in the press, especially in the press that covers Hollywood.
See, this is where he gets it slightly wrong because like he's still in like the system of mental control, right? So he doesn't comprehend that Hollywood is actually designed to do exactly what he thinks only was eventually turned into this thing. You see what I'm saying? It was always designed to do what he's talking about.
Hollywood. The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Rolling Stone, IndieWire, and most other major entertainment news companies are owned by Penske Media Group. This is a conglomerate that was made to hoover up all the news companies and put them under one roof. And
check that out. Look, all the different ways of listening or looking at certain information is tied together. So, like people that like Rolling Stone but don't like Variety, wow, you're getting the same information. Interesting.
You can guess who's been bankrolling the operation. Private equity firms have put hundreds of millions into it. Each time these companies change hands, the firm that ends up owning them tries to extract as much profit as possible. So they cut costs, which means laying off the staff. While the stock price might go up for a time and the firm might end up getting richer, the actual company they're buying ceases to function properly. And it's really hard to overstate the effect this has had on TV shows and movies as a whole. It explains why every movie just seems to flop nowadays.
Very soon.
This is exactly why it's so hard to trust the media anymore. Bad on TV shows and movies as a whole. It explains why every movie just seems to flop now.
The reason why movies are, well, for the most part, most movies are actually going to start flopping more and more because they can't make anything new to try to brainwash you with it.
Nowadays. This is exactly why it's so hard to trust the media anymore, because our news and media is almost entirely owned by the same handful of private equity groups, which is why you should check out ground.news/moon, as Ground News gathers stories from over 50,000 sources around the world every single day. So instead of falling into algorithmic echo chambers, you can compare how the left, right, and center are covering the exact same story. For example, let's take a look at this story about how the UK just rolled out one of the strictest online age verifications.
The funny thing is like there's, you know how many people I see promote this Ground News shit, and they're like, don't get stuck in the left right echo chamber, blah blah blah, and at the same time they're talking about how like they know how to not, they're stuck in the left right still. Like, so look, see how it says left, right, center? Right. Now watch, I'll make it easy for you. Everything that's on the left is bullshit. Everything on the right is bullshit. Half the stuff in the center is bullshit. And the other half is questionable. Fair?
Verification laws in the world, requiring platforms like Reddit and X to implement.
I'm not saying bullshit in the sense like there isn't information that's not important. Like, all information is important. What I'm saying is the reason why it's bullshit is because it doesn't matter if you're on the left, right, or center of this page. This page is designed to look at the lens through a left-right paradigm. That is a false mental state. So do you see how they can't have a center? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they have a center, but they don't get that there is no center in a left-right paradigm.
Age verification barriers to comply. With Ground News, we can see this story.
You have to leave the left-right paradigm to see the center. You see what I mean? And anyone who does that would know that the left and right are two wings of the same bird, bullshit, lion, probably most likely pedophilic Psychopath.
being covered by 130 different sources, 19 of which are left-leaning, 15 are right, and 39 are in the center, with a biased distribution of 26% left, 53% center, and 21% right. We
Right.
can then compare all the headlines and do a biased comparison of all the stories, where we can see that left-wing sources are framing this law as threatening the open internet, whereas right-wing sources are saying these laws don't go far enough. You can even click each original source directly and compare these
Like, you see, like that right there, he doesn't get that both sides are advocating for the same thing, even if it doesn't look like it.
headlines for yourself, instead of just an algorithm telling you what to think. And with the ownership of sources feature, it's clear the majority of outlets are owned by media conglomerates, with only 18% coming from independent news sources. I like looking at this as it's easy to identify the financial interests shaping the news and confirm that the source I'm reading is free from outside control. And it works perfectly with their
Right, but how can you do that if all information is owned by 6 conglomerate media sources in the United States? And I actually don't know. Let's see. Okay, so look, I don't know if that top, like you see how it has blind spot, US and Canada, North America, America's local, my feed, right? So is it? I wonder if that's based on their personal location, right? And so like if you're like in Europe, it would have different countries up there, right? And different sections of the world, right? Or is this purely for the Americas and North America? And then that on top of that, it looks like based on how I'm just viewing this snapshot, right? It seems to be heavily, most likely, an American company, and therefore most of the information it's going to be showing has to come from the 6 companies that distribute all the information practically, because it's like they're at like what, those 6 companies I would say distribute 97% of all information in the United States, right? So you get like that little bit 3% fringe. Like I think of the 3% as like all the normies think that those people are crazy. I'm a part of the 3%. Do you see what I'm saying? Because all the normies think I'm crazy. It's all right though.
blind spot feed that gathers roughly 20 stories a day ignored by the media on the left and right. So make sure to check them out today at ground.news/moon to get 40% off unlimited access this month. Equity firms looking
You see what I just did right there? I fucking broke down their fucking ad.
to cut costs have cut wages, media writer producer pay fell by 23% amidst a decade of buyouts, and actor pay and screenwriter pay dropped by similar levels as well. These
I ain't gonna
to cut
hold on.
costs have cut wages, media writer producer pay fell by 23% amidst a decade of buyouts, and actor pay media writer producer pay fell by 23% amidst a decade of buyouts, and actor pay and screenwriter pay dropped by similar levels as well. These stripped down, Skeleton Crew Studios can't output quality content at the same speed or quality. It's why we don't see things like Breaking Bad anymore. Breaking Bad, a 5-season masterpiece, came out across 2008 to 2013. This was just before the buyouts really took
And it is a masterpiece. I've watched that whole series like 3 times.
their effect, as pretty much every year like clockwork, they made a new series of one of the best shows of all time, which is something that's completely unheard
I still haven't seen Better Call Saul. I might look into watching it. I don't know. I've held off because I always feel like it's not going to be as good as like, because it stemmed from Breaking Bad. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's like, is it that good? Is it good enough? I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to be comparing it to Breaking Bad if I watch it, but I've heard it's pretty good, so I might.
of for a show of its size today. In fact, we today just see flop after flop in movies and TV. Nowadays, you'd be lucky if your favorite show was half as good and had a new series come out every 2 years. Meanwhile, the studios and their private equity puppet masters have done everything they could to reduce costs in other ways by bypassing the writers and actors entirely. One way you might have noticed is their obsession with cranking out more reality TV. It feels
Hence the rise of people like Andrew Tate. People don't get he's a motherfucking. He came from reality TV work and boxing. Don't get me wrong. He came from kickboxing and like like that fighting and stuff. He also came from reality TV work.
builds out a streaming services library while costing far less to make.
He also is a self-snitching criminal that everyone should watch out for.
Private equity firms have coordinated on this because each one has exactly the same goal: reduce costs, increase shareholder profits. They operate on a short-term
And I know you listening out there, some fake Andrew Tate channel page watching me.
basis so that they can sell the stock, or just sell it to the next private equity firm in a couple of years if they overstretch what they already bought.
If you want to build an app and have no idea how to
Moon,
code or
why do you
where to
have so many
start,
commercials in
check
this
out
video
Base
today?
44.
This way, there's never actually any long-term thinking or passion behind any project today. Not even in the media reporting on any of these films. The entire industry has been sold out completely. However, the most important thing here is that the only way they compete with each other now is through the hoarding and use of intellectual property. Those IPs and content sources that keep people on your streaming platform rather than the competitors. And this is where the industry is today. Solely focused on the IP wars rather than anything else. And unfortunately, that seems to be the future of the entire industry. Here's why. Today's studio executives all generally agree that you need around 200 million subscribers to keep a major streaming platform alive and well.
Holy
This takes an
crazy
insane
fuck.
amount of money to get enough content and keep people subscribed. Netflix spent around $17 billion on content in 2024 alone. They can afford it as by
Damn.
far the largest and most profitable streaming
Right,
platform
they were
around.
the first.
In fact, only 3 studios have this many subscribers: Amazon, Netflix, and Disney when you combine their 2 platforms. For the others, it's just a completely different story. There just isn't enough to go around, with every studio trying to take their own slice of the pie, and the smaller ones are taking a heavy financial beating. According to the New York Times, in 2023, Paramount lost $1.6 billion in streaming,
damn.
Comcast lost $2.7 billion,
Damn.
and even Disney lost $2.6 billion despite their massive size. And so how are they dealing with these catastrophic losses, and all the losses happening in the box offices right now for these companies? Well, private equity has dealt with this in their usual short-sighted way by squeezing every last drop out of their subscriber base. Not thinking long-term, not thinking about customer satisfaction, and not thinking about future great movie making. Just short-term decisions to sell the stock. To do this, they've
Got in my nose. It burns, it burns. I'm just playing.
raised prices as high as they dare, and they've added adverts with extra charges to remove them. The end result is similar to shrinkflation. You get less than before for even higher prices, completely ruining all customer satisfaction.
I mean, I wonder what AI is gonna do. Well, I mean, not just AI, just like what is Bitcoin gonna do to the price of making movies, I think. Or like when it becomes so easy to make a movie that I can make a movie, you can make a movie, anyone can make a movie about anything they want to make a movie, because AI can logistically make you characters exactly how you want them to look, exactly how you detail each character, and keep all that memory and be able to do all that. So like you can create each individual character for a story and then put them in the story and have the AI do the whole thing with just you telling you it what to do. And you don't have to do anything. Like Comprehend, that's coming. Like to be able to do something like that. Actually, to some degree, people that already know how to use AI and have the money to pay for like the super high level tiers can probably do what I just said. But I'm talking about for us poor people, right? It's going to be a moment, right? So like another 2-3 years, right? Maybe less, right? And then eventually it's going to be to the point where you logistically say one sentence and can get an AI to do anything.
One of the worst things you can do in business, but this can't go on forever. As we zoom out, we'll see that for once, this greed could actually be punished, and finally the consequences of these short-term actions will hit these companies even harder. The shrinkflation comparison reveals why. The classic example for this is a chocolate bar. The big candy companies like Cadbury have steadily shrunk the product while keeping the price the same or even increasing the price. Most people don't really have a choice when it comes to things like cheap chocolates, so they can get away with it as long as their competitors do the same. But unfortunately for movie studios and their private equity overlords,
that's wild, bro. See, like the crazy thing is people don't get is not only are you being fucked over by imaginary inflation due to false debt created out of insanity, this product that you're buying that's being inflated is also being shrunk at the same time. So you're actually paying more for less while being fucked through the inflation that you think you're going through. That is necessary. That is not. Wild, bro. Like you gotta think, bro. I say sentences, and sometimes after I say those sentences, and I'm just like, wow, bro. How do other people not get this? How do other people not see like how that works? Like, how are you not mad when the product you were buying 5 years ago has shrunk in size 35 to 45%, and then it has also been inflated by like 200 or plus percent. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying? So those two things are happening at the simultaneously, and no one seems to see it or get it or be mad about it. Everybody rather be complaining about, I don't know, because I don't know what ignorant people complain about. The only things I complain about are things that affect the whole world pretty much. And then the rest of it, I think, is like unnecessary, because if we fix all the problems that are plaguing the world right now mentally, all those other issues are going to just disappear.
People actually do have a real choice when it comes to streaming platforms. Through all this cost-cutting, penny-pinching, and terrible business practices, private equity forgets that people have an entirely free option if they ever get sick of the major streaming platforms. And of course, we're in no way endorsing piracy here, but this is just an inevitable economic consequence of offering a bad service. As we zoom out
From website sales, we've generated enough income to open our own bar. Hosting made our website creation very easy for us.
out to the wider industry surrounding digital content, will see this in full effect. Valve are the kings of digital content distribution thanks to the long-lasting dominance of Steam. Games are an industry that encourages piracy like no other, especially now that you're probably going to be downloading them whether you follow the law or not. Meanwhile, Steam has remained on top for years now, despite other companies like Tencent through Epic Games throwing billions and billions at trying to unseat them. Despite how many new games they give away, despite how easy pirating is, people just prefer to use Steam. Gabe Newell, the CEO
Well,
of
yeah,
Valve,
because they
is
don't.
often
They
quoted when
it's the reason why most people use Steam is because it's the free, not worrying about people coming and putting you in a cage, like sort of thing. You see what I'm saying? You just pay for Steam, then you don't have to worry about someone. When you pirate, bro, you got to make sure you do that shit correctly. If you don't do that shit correctly, and you got to think, I'm talking live on stream, and I could still pirate tomorrow, and I wouldn't get caught. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Because if I was gonna pirate a video or pirate anything, I know what I'm doing. Like from I don't know, fucking 10 years ago.
it comes to piracy.
I've never gotten in trouble for watching a movie that was not even in theaters yet. You see what I'm saying? Nor do I think I should get in trouble. Do you see what I mean? It was low quality. I ain't gonna lie.
What's Valve's take on piracy?
Piracy to us, so we don't really worry about piracy. When we think, when you look at the top 10 issues on our list at any given point in time, piracy is almost never, something that's on that list. And the reason that we think that we don't have issues with piracy is that there's misconceptions in the industry about what piracy is, right?
He must understand it after all, having beaten it so thoroughly. Valve didn't need to worry about privacy like Gabe said because they know how it works. Some people will just always pirate everything and you can't reach those consumers and there's just no point trying. But most people often want to buy games. They don't want the viruses that come with piracy, they don't want all the issues, and they might just want to support games.
Yeah. I had to learn a lot. I had to learn a lot. You can't just click any button or do any I made mistakes. You see what I'm saying?
Game companies. Oftentimes they just don't want to even break the law. There's obviously a lot of reasons not to pirate generally. People often only pirate when there's just no other choice or when they feel like there's no other choice.
Right, exactly. See? When you feel like there's no other choice.
Simply take the path of least resistance. If everything you want to watch is on Netflix and the costs are reasonable, lots of people will just buy a Netflix subscription. But when the service is poor and expensive like it is today, a much larger proportion of people will just pirate instead. So I
ain't gonna lie, look, check it out, bro. I have been noticing a trend on Netflix, right? So 2 years ago, bro, it felt like every month or every other month easily. There was something fuck, I gotta watch that. And before. So I'm talking about 2 years and before, right? It was every month or every other month, something was happening on Netflix where I was like, fuck, I gotta watch this. Fuck, I gotta watch that. Because it was just something that mostly for doing research, right? Because I only really mostly watch movies now and TV shows and any of that shit to see what symbolism they're attempting to manipulate you with. So I can come back and tell you about the symbolism that they're attempting to manipulate you with in the movies that they use to manipulate you with. You see how that works? So that's mostly my goal, right? And so, but see, 2 years ago, I was like, fuck. And I've noticed like slowly over time that like that's decreased. Like where I'm like there's less and less that I'm like even needing to watch. Like what I'm saying is like it's just redundant. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the stuff is popping up. It's like, oh, well, I could watch that, but there's no need for me to watch that because everything that I could learn from possibly watching that, I already know and I can already tell you. So you see how it makes it obsolete. So like, I feel like I'm not joking when I say the system's dead and it doesn't have the ability to produce new things, and it's like heavily going to start like recreating stuff, remastering, redesigning the same old things into slightly different new concepts, but they're the same concept. It's like they're not coming out with anything new. I mean, they turned Eddie Murphy and Danny Glover into Sanford and Son. You see what I'm saying, bro? And that's a show from the 70s, bringing it back. You see what I mean? They can't make anything new. It looks new, but it's not new.
Companies like Steam can get around this because they offer a really good service. You actually buy a game on Steam and you can download it anywhere. You're not just limited to a few designated devices and you aren't region locked. It won't rotate out of Steam's library in a month or two, making it inaccessible. They offer something much closer to actual ownership. Meanwhile, other game companies offer such a bad service that people had to make a petition just to try and force them to do the bare minimum and actually keep a game functional that people have already paid for. It's called Stop Killing Games.
Yep.
Really, it's just asking for the bare minimum of service. Ubisoft's game The Crew is the example that
movement was started by one guy, by the way.
Petition uses. When it was released
in Europe,
it was always online and you needed to log into Ubisoft's dedicated servers to play it. Now it's old and Ubisoft wants to take the servers offline, but this will then mean a game.
And see, this is another thing that's bad with 2K, right? Side rant, 2K turns off their servers after 2 years, so that way everyone has to progress through the games at some point.
That people paid for will just cease to function. The petition doesn't even force them to keep the servers running. Instead, all it asks for is that these companies
versus something like COD, right? All their servers are still running.
Must let players run their own private server. It's a tiny cost in the long run for these massive conglomerates, but these companies have all lobbied together to fight this. And the ironic thing here is that the pirates have actually gotten the best service by far in the case of The Crew. A cracked version of a private server has been floating around for ages now. A common consequence of the medieval attitude most companies take towards piracy is that the paying law-abiding customers always just get punished in the end anyway. It's all typical of short-sighted decisions made because the private equity companies at the top are the ones who are really pulling the strings.
Right?
And we might have
criminals.
Valve,
They're
but
the
they
real
aren't doing
criminals.
anything that amazing. They're just not buying into the same business model that everyone else seems to be following right now. But maybe that is amazing though, just considering how every other
wait a second, what the fuck
praise
did that
Valve,
say?
but they aren't doing anything that amazing. They're
Valve also released a geographic breakdown of sales showing that North America 41%, Western Europe 40% make up the lion's share of Steam's business, yet its presence is ever increasing in territories like Russia and Brazil. In 2014, we'll see 14 new currencies supported from the yen to the kroner, as well as allowing monetary exchange between players. Steam wallets. Valve is making it easier for developers to work locally in a world where digital distribution can take your game almost anywhere.
just not buying into the same business model that everyone else seems to be following right now. But maybe that is amazing though, just considering how every other company seems to shoot itself in the foot. It's all the result of a classic expand and squeeze model that startups have been using for years.
It's like kind of like a pump and dump.
Uber's a great example.
If you don't know where to start in Top Heroes World, the Springland is a great place to start. There are low-level enemies and villages with free healing wells.
First, they took in as much investor capital as they could, expanding their service to the world while losing billions just to grow larger. Then, when they had a large enough market share, they switched to squeeze model. That's when the highest surge price came. The lower pay for drivers, simply just a poorer service for more money. And people couldn't go back to what they used to have as it was already too late. They'd gotten too used to the service. Spotify actually did the same thing. They even used piracy to their advantage. At first, lots of their catalog was downloaded off of sites like Napster. They skirted the law saw and took control of the market before the big labels could organize themselves, offering a better service that beats the pirates. Later, to keep their position, they made a deal with the big labels. They sold out the artists in favor of hedge funds and private equity, and it would end up making both of them far richer at the expense of the people actually making most of the music. Now,
Wow.
Spotify's just another arm of private equity
Yep.
interests that already own the music industry.
Yep.
It was only their absolute dominance
And
over
you wonder why I don't have a bunch of music out on and like logistically, bro. Here, I'll give you a concept. If I wanted to really focus on music, I could logistically make a track a day, jabbering my motherfucking head off in crazy ass different motherfucking ways, spitting lyrics so truth that I'll cut off a motherfucking ninja's head. Like, you see what I'm saying? If I really wanted to. But where could I, like, what I'm talking about ain't allowed. Like, do you see what I mean? So, and like, I am still gonna do this, right? Like Spotify, like I'm gonna start uploading like the song I'm making for the intro song. Tomorrow, I need to really just finish that song. Tomorrow, I just really need to finish the song. I should just really finish the song, like, and just like there's a couple things I need to do. They're not really hard, and then fully comfortably mix it more, just slightly tuned mixing, and then mastering, and then it's done. And then yeah, so I'm gonna put that on Spotify for like, and that'll be my first song on Spotify ever. But I'm gonna test it on SoundCloud first and see how it does. So I'm gonna post this to SoundCloud first and see how it does on there, and then do the whole Spotify thing because I had to like set it all up.
the market that forced the labels to actually work together and accept their place. Otherwise, every major music label would have its own version of Spotify.
And then I don't know if I really might want to get into it. I might go like distro kid route, maybe, if like any of that. Because after I do that, I'm gonna make more songs. You see what I'm saying? And put up, but like, I'm taking my time. I'm not trying to rush. Because I'm doing all this stuff too. Do you see what I'm saying? So the music's in the background, but I know I could focus on that and do it 100% if I wanted to. But I know how difficult that would be. Let's just say I'm taking a route that's least resistant currently.
like we have with movie and TV streaming platforms. And you can actually tell they're all owned by private equity now just based on their decisions. You might be tired of hearing them by now because they fit the exact same pattern we've seen over and over again. Spotify even recently moved to squeeze costs by reducing royalties even more for small artists. Now, because of their arbitrary decision, each track now needs at least 1,000 streams a year to make any money at all. It runs alongside their constant pressure on users. Now you can't even choose.
Well, damn, dude, I'm gonna really see how good my music is once I upload it to Spotify. Because if I can't even make 1,000 listens a year, bro, on a song, that's gonna suck. Not really. I don't care. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I'm just saying, like, it'll be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Which specific songs to listen to if you don't have a premium account. And there's even more adverts constantly interrupting the music. Meanwhile, Daniel Ek, the CEO, has invested $700 million of these profits into AI military companies. And you can bet if Netflix had taken more of the market, the big movie
What the fuck, bro? They just say the people that like are like holding artists hostage and taking all their money is now is taking that money and putting it into the military industrial AI complex.
Studios might have struck a similar deal, but instead we got the splintered, unstable ecosystem we have today. Which brings us to the final chapter of our journey down the corporate rabbit hole. And as we zoom out to the wider internet, it's all been decimated by these same corporate tactics. Social media companies pushed forward by their investors have
Don't worry, Moon, it's all crumbling as you speak.
done everything they can to sanitize online discussion and make it suitable for advertisers. Meanwhile, the actual content has been degraded by corporate shit-sighted thinking and is now far worse. Want to know the release date of the next season of The Boys? This hypothetical article might tell you. But first, you'll get the legally mandated cookie message. This is here because of efforts to regulate corporate data theft. And good luck finding the reject all button if there even is one. Now they're trying to hide it as much as they legally can. Then there's the anti-ad blocker message next. Either you comply or you try to bypass it some other way. Yet again, the people following the rules get invasive adverts. The people who find a way to get around them to read in peace. Then you finally get the actual article. But
I don't know, bro. He's all read it in peace, bro. I don't even see ads, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're there, they're there if I'm looking at something that might have ads on that screen somewhere. They're there, but I'm not looking at them. I'm not worried about them. That's not what I'm there for. So I don't give a shit. I don't know. Maybe it's called willpower, people. Maybe you just need you just need to fucking throw some dirt on it, bro.
Because the massive private equity conglomerate fired most of the writers, it would mostly be rushed out insane drivel about a show rather than the actual question the headline asks, and will either pander to the film or diss the film based on its narrative and the investors' preferences running the entire industry, which just makes the dead internet theory true in an entirely different way. As bots get more common and start writing all of these articles for these private equity
It'll
firms,
become
there won't
more
even
body.
be any real human opinion here. And the more bots there are commenting and posting on all of the slop, the worse it will get and the harder it will become to find real information, made by actual humans, making the internet even creepier and more controlled than
Well, like, no, like what needs to happen is that every bot has to have a designation that shows and proves that that is a bot talking all the time for any action the bot does. It's very simple, people. You just make it where people that actually are real don't show up in the comment section the same way as the bot does. Like, the bot should be completely adhered to knowing that it's a bot. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone should know it's a bot. Like, it should be like, never mind. I don't know what I'm like even saying right now, because like I'm talking about people that are pushing AI and robots so fast, so forward, so quickly, without even conceptualizing how stuck everyone already was before the AI was even created at this level.
we see today. Each inconvenience for the consumer is because of a greedy decision solely to get short-term profits and sell a company. And these short-sighted policies are really infecting everything. But because of this, it might actually help the streaming situation, as this might actually be the one sector where there will always be an alternative to the corporate route. If it gets worse and worse, there will always be a pressure release valve, as we see today. And yet these companies still wonder why piracy is massively increasing today. And if they make it even worse for the consumer, more and more people will just leave, and this whole corporate ecosystem could collapse under its own weight.
They're an idiot. They're
as
killing
too many
themselves.
short-term decisions end up being catastrophic. But
Damn.
unfortunately, this just isn't the same for
Damn,
other
you see all those
industries.
losses?
We already talked about shrinkflation and chocolate bars, but other products and services have similar problems. Take cars, for example. Private equity is all over the manufacturers. They're the ones pushing for
That was
things
a
like a
dope-ass
subscription
Mustang.
cost for heated seats. And we're not actually joking, this was a real idea pushed by BMW. Just
What?
£10 a month in the UK would unlock this feature, which they'd already added to the car. It's
What
simply
the
a completely
fuck?
transparent attempt to squeeze even more money from the customers in whatever way they can. And really, it just makes it even sadder that the old anti-piracy ad still isn't true. If you could actually download a car, maybe things would be a little bit different.
Bro.
Property.
Bro, fucking BMW is now charging a subscription inside their car that you buy, and after you pay for it, the car, they still are trying to get you to pay a subscription in the car. I don't know, bro. That's wild. So, like, yeah, see, look, like I said, the internet and the whole world is going to continue to get more chaotic. It's going to, like, I'm just going to be chilling right here. You know what I'm saying? Stacking my Bitcoin, minding my own damn business, playing video games. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, reacting to stuff on the internet. I don't even like going outside, bro, because it's a death trap, bro. Like, look, like think of it this way: simultaneously, the world, like in the United States, right? Like, people got it twisted, right? So, albeit there are some places in the United States that are highly violent and highly dangerous. Don't get it twisted. There are. I'm just saying, because of how large the United States is, most of the United States is actually fairly safe. It's like more safe now than it's ever been, actually, for most places in the United States, barring a few places with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like Los Angeles, Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, you know what I mean? Places like that. And all three of those are in the top 5 cities with the most everything like that, right? So what I'm thinking is simultaneously what is happening is while the system is crumbling, more and more of the world is going to become violent or chaotic to that degree. So I only go outside when I really need to, and that's it. Because going outside is dangerous, even though you're safe. Like at least where I live, right? I'm super safe. Like you gotta think, I am more worried about the cops fucking with me in a way that could harm me than a criminal in this city. You see what I'm saying? I don't see a criminal, bro. Criminals don't roll up on me. Criminals don't just roll up on me with guns and shit and try to rob me. Like no one just rolls up on me. The cops, though, as you saw, can roll up on me real quick. They all have guns. And they can do that even if I'd done nothing. As you saw. Like I got let go, bro. Like she gave me back my ID and I got let go. I didn't get a ticket. I didn't get nothing. All I got was stay off the highway. And I wasn't on the highway. I was on 8th Street in a city called, I'm not going to say my city. Just, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool. Moon, that was a great video. Again, Moon is cool. You should go check him out. He's awesome. I put him in the description as always. And I'm out of here.